Hello everybody, welcome to Online Trading Academy's webinar, Are You Paving a Path to Wealth? Happy to have so many with us today. I see we've got some people joining us from, I've got California, I've got a couple from California. So if you guys would just let us know where you're from so we get an idea of our demographic set and where everyone's geographically located. And who knows, maybe that might even clue us into some of the wealth creation potential for your areas. Today's webinar is going to be an interesting one because there's a lot of attention focused on this. And it's not a get-rich-quick type of webinar, but there are paths that we can take to get rich over time. So that will be part of the focus of today. A lot of it's going to be about just personal responsibility and taking control of our actions that we do every single day, and those in turn will help us grow our wealth. Now, as we progress through today, I'll be doing my best to monitor the questions here, but feel free to type in questions during chat. If I don't get to them here in this webinar, please feel free to type them in the comment section down below the video, and we'll go back through after this and hopefully address those one by one, and so we can get everybody's questions answered. So thanks for joining us. Let's get started. Now, we're talking about paving the path to wealth. Names come to mind. Of course, these are the filthy, filthy rich people out there. You're talking Bill Gates, you got Mark Cuban, Warren Buffett, just to name a couple. And I brought these ones up for a couple different reasons. Bill Gates, he's got to be close to $100 billion worth of net worth. Of course, most of that came because of Microsoft, but he's also an extremely frugal guy. Rumor is that he wears a $10 Timex watch. Could this guy be wearing a $500,000 Rolex? Yes, he could. But why? He understands there's no point to it. Mark Cuban, billionaire in his own right, self-made man. He was reported as basically eating macaroni and cheese all through college because he wanted to save money. He also had tons and tons of roommates to help split the cost. Why? Because he wanted to have capital ready when an idea came along, and when it did, he had the money there to deploy. We know Warren Buffett apparently still lives in the same house he bought 53 years ago, or 61 years ago for $31,000. Now the property taxes on that place are more than the house was originally purchased for. So these guys have all been very frugal, yet they're some of the richest people in the world. Now, I don't anticipate any of us getting to their level. I hope that you do. And if you do get to their level, please send me a little thank you note sometime down the line. But how did they get there? Well, it's a combination of many things. Number one is they learned to make smart decisions. So I'd love it if all of you today just pulled out a piece of paper as you're taking this webinar and try not to be distracted. It'll be 30 to 40 minutes of just straight content for you. Grab a piece of paper, got a little plain piece of paper, and I want you to write some things across the top, and I'll let you know as we go what those are. So learning to make smart decisions. What are we talking about with regards to smart decisions? Each of these individuals has, I guess, mastered certain things. Personal financial management. They've all been very frugal with their money. They also were looking at investments. Now, of course, we probably aren't going to start up a technology company or a payment service or a hedge fund, but we can look at investments, and I know many of you are Online Trading Academy graduates and you understand core strategy, you understand market timing. We can start to look at specific investments that will help grow our wealth at a nice rate of return, and we'll talk about that today as well. All right, we got a very diversified group. I see Texas and Florida, the Cube. Hello, Ruben. We've got all over California, South Carolina, so hello, everybody. And final one there is planning. This is one I think people think they have a plan mapped out, but it's not exactly mapped out, so we'll talk about some of the planning aspects of it today. Those are kind of the three main things that these guys have done. I think one that I could put on here is the ability to seize an opportunity and understand its rate of return and how it compares. So we did a couple of Twitter polls, and I found those to be rather interesting as well. Twitter poll says, do you have any disposable income at the end of the month? 79% of the viewers said yes. 17 said no, and 4 said I don't know. Well, let's break this down. And this to me is the first step, and every single one of you should be doing this every month, mapping out your expenses and understanding where your money goes. We are known as a consumer country, a consumer nation. We are the spenders. Well, what do we spend it on? So let's real quickly explain what disposable income is for those that don't know. It's money you have left over to do with what you want at the end of each month. And that's a simple formula. Disposable income is your income minus expenses and liabilities. That's pretty much it. Very, very simple. So let's say you make $3,000 a month. You got $1,800 worth of expenses and $1,400 worth of liabilities. That means you have negative $200. If your number looks like this, if your number is a red negative number on disposable income, your odds of growing your wealth or becoming wealthy are 0 or lower. Because you can't get wealthy if you don't have money to become wealthy with. You need money to make money. So first step for any one of you, and don't feel bad if you have a negative number, If you do have a negative number, all you have to do is sit and understand how we can change that dynamic. How can I get that, in this case, negative $200 to be a positive $1? Got to start somewhere, right? That means we're making changes. But if I can get that to 500 or 1,000, all of a sudden now I have real potential to grow with. So I'm going to walk you through an example here, which may hit close to home for some of you. Some of you might be in a different age bracket, but I think you'll understand where we're going with this, and you should all perform this action, because right now we're in a situation where these markets are getting a little bit toppy. If things start to drop, you might have to cut back on your spending anyway, because your increase or your salary, your payments might drop as well. All right, let me start off with the first one, which is income. These are ways that you're getting money. And of course, we know salary is one way we're getting money. We're also talking about royalties, maybe rental income if you're a property owner. Annuities, these are fixed income products that are giving you a payment amount. And maybe alimony, child support. These are all different things that will generate income for us. Of course, there's many more than this, but think of any way that you have money coming in. Write that down in column number 1 on your piece of paper, right? Write 3 things across the top: income, expenses, and liabilities. On that first one, under income, where's your money coming from? Most of it's going to be a salary. So that's the easy one. Expenses is an interesting one as well, because we have this thing in our head that says, I want this, but what do you really need? For example, we all want to have a huge home, right? The McMansion. What you really need is a roof over your head. Now, of course, we like to have a nice roof over our head, but maybe we can forego the luxury McMansion for a little while so we can grow our wealth and ultimately end up in a much bigger McMansion. Maybe I love eating out and want to go to all the fancy restaurants, right? I'm going to the Michelin Guide and Zagat Guides and picking all the top restaurants and spending a grip of money there. What you really need is just food. So maybe we can cut back on the lavishness to which we spend our money on meals and, start eating lunch at the office, preparing things at home, eating dinner at home. What you really want is that nice fancy car, right? You want to go buy yourself that new Bentley. Got to have that flying spur. No, you need a transportation. You need to get from your home to work or to your friends' houses or to travel around. Do you have to have a fancy car for that? No, it could be something that just gets you from point A to point B. If you're really frugal, you're taking buses or riding a bike or buying yourself one of these electric bicycles or razors, and flying around one of those things. That'd save yourself a ton of money. We all want the iced mocha frappuccino every morning, right? Got to have my caffeine fix. What you really need is hydration. You need water. Okay, sure, we could take that water at home and maybe go buy some Sanka coffee and make your coffee at home. But boy, I tell you what, spending $6.50 a day for an iced mocha frappuccino when you could probably spend $6.50 a month making coffee at home is a huge savings. I know, some of you guys are going, that's a little bit out of line. Well, we have to make exceptions here. All right, gym memberships. How many of you right now have a gym membership and you haven't been to the gym for over 30 days? That means that that's a wasted payment for your gym membership. Anybody? Come on, be honest with me, guys. Come on. What you really need is to pay your utilities, right? If we pay our utilities, we can do full workouts at home. There are complete exercise routines that you can do with your own body weight from your own home, and that's it. It's all you need. So you don't really need a gym membership unless you're trying to bulk up and really lift heavy weights. So this is the distinction we need to make. As you go through your expenses, think of, are these wants or are these needs? Basically, needs are what I need to survive. The wants are usually going to cost a lot more, and we might not necessarily need them. And I'm not saying give up everything and all of a sudden become a miser and, the Scrooge McDuck over here. But there are some things that you're wasting money on. Good example is the gym membership. I mean, a lot of people do that where January 1st, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get in shape. This is the year I'm going to get in shape. Yeah, by January 15th, you don't go to the gym for the whole year. Well, that's 11 payments of $30 a month that have gone out the window. That's $450 that just disappears. That could be back in your pocket, and you could have done just the same amount of workouts. All right, what else we got? Let's go to your last part here, which is debt. This has some good sides and some bad sides to it. Debt or liabilities are what you owe. You're generally paying an interest rate on these. That might be for a mortgage, for a car, student loans, which as we've seen right now in society is the ultimate killer. And you also have credit card bills. That is a big one where people are running more and more into debt. And I can see out here, we got a couple of good comments. It says, literally all I spend on is my core bills, housing, utilities, cell phones, etc., and food. From Brendan out there. And good. I mean, you've whittled it down. But I'm pretty sure that before that you had some other expenses, but you've been smart enough to whittle those down, I think because you've been watching the show for so long. So bottom line is I want you to start to prioritize. On that third column, write down all of your debt. And I'm going to walk through some examples. You'll see it here in a second. But you need to prioritize your debt. Pay off the most costly debt first. So let's talk about two forms of debt, good debt and bad debt. Let's say you go down to your local bank and they'll give you a line of credit, a loan for 6% APR. So you're going to be paying 6% a year on that money, whatever amount of money that is. So if you went and purchased something that you knew or anticipated appreciating in value, that would be called good debt. So here we take 6% debt, 6% debt, and we go and we buy a home. And that home is going to, let's say it rises 10% per year. Now that might be a little bit aggressive, but just bear with me for the example. What this means is this individual here has made 4%, earned 4% on that debt, right? Bad debt is what most people are doing, which is taking that 6% debt, going and buying a new car, and all of a sudden you drive it off the lot, it loses 30% within minutes, right? That's bad debt, and it continues to depreciate. Now, that's not to say that you can't buy a collector's car, which may appreciate in value, but for the most part, purchasing a car is bad debt, or buying something that you just don't need. If you take that 6% APR and buy yourself that wonderful treadmill that you use for 3 days and all of a sudden it sits useless for the next 10 years, that's bad debt. All right, next step is analyzing your personal finances. So those are the three elements, income, expenses, and liabilities. Let's dive deeper into this. And I know that, Brendan, from your conversations I can see here, you're taking those steps already. Now maybe we can dive deeper into the allocations. Karen says, if my only debt is my house, should I pay it off? Rate is only 1.99, which is why I haven't paid it off. I'll get to that one in a second. The quick answer is probably not. 1.99 is unbelievably low. That's a great, congrats on locking it in at that rate. So let's take a look at Maxine. Maxine's a 35-year-old web developer. You can see on the image here, she's pouting, she's sulking. Why? She's not really in a great spot. She's making $60 grand a year, $10,000 in student loans at 6%, one credit card for $5,000 with 24% interest. This is usurious. Many of you probably are carrying balances that are running 24%. This is a killer. Credit cards, $2,000 balance at 9%. So she's got a lot of debt here, $17,000 worth. Renting a 2-bedroom apartment, she's got $2,000 in savings and $10,000 for retirement. So not too bad for a millennial, but she's okay. So let's dive deeper into her personal finances. Her income. She makes $60,000 a year. That's $5,000 gross a month. After all the taxes and everything are withheld, $3,640. So that number's easy. $3,640 is what she has to start with. If she spends 1 penny more than that amount, she is already impeding her progress to growing her wealth. So we want to get that below that number. What are her expenses? We're looking at $750 a month for food. She eats out a lot. She's got a nice little convertible car that she drives, $150 for gas, $200 for clothes. Got to have the new clothes. She's looking at $1,100 per month. Now, I can't say whether that's high or low. We have to put it in context of her overall picture. So let's move forward past the expenses side here of food and general expenses. Now, insurance. Obviously, this is an important one. There's many different types of insurance. Luckily for Maxine, she gets her health insurance through work, so that doesn't ding her at all. But she's got auto insurance for a little convertible, $148 a month. That's kind of expensive. Utilities. We all have to have utilities of some sort, electric, gas, water, sewer, cable, telephone, internet. These are all pieces that we might be currently consuming. There are ways that we can trim this down, which we'll look at. But here's her current situation, about $380 per month in all of those expenses, okay? And I'm running through this quickly because there's nothing really noteworthy here, just that these are her expenses. Now, as far as the overall numbers, we've got food and general expenses of $1,100, insurance of $148, and $380 worth of utilities. So our second formula, or second number of our formula, which is income minus expenses and liabilities, now we have our expenses at $1,628 a month. Max says, is this webinar only catered towards North America? Absolutely not. I don't care what country you live in. Anywhere you live, it's about understanding how much money you have coming in, what your expenses are. In any country around the world, any planet around the solar system, it's going to be the same thing. If you want to grow your wealth, you have to spend less than you are earning. And that's what this is showing here. And I'm going to show you how this individual tailored their numbers. All right, so debt. This is the killer for Maxine. We already read through these three variables. She's paying $614 per month just to service her debt. That's the minimum payments for that Visa, MasterCard, and student loan. Okay? I'll show you a way around that here in just a second. Not around it. Oh, don't worry, Max. It's the same in South Africa, my friend. If you're making money and you're spending more than what you're making in South Africa, you're not going to get wealthy. If you're spending less than you're making, now we can start to grow our wealth. All right. So debt. Here's our formula. We've got disposable income of $3,640. That's the income. We have expenses of $1,640, and we have debt totaling $2,804 for Maxine. So when we look at this pie chart, we can see that Maxine is negative $792 a month, which means that basically Maxine will continue to slide into debt, and at some point along this horrible run, she will go into bankruptcy. She has to fix this problem. So let's look real quickly at how Maxine can fix this situation. Don't worry, she can. First step, we looked at the housing. Maxine's single, right? She lives alone. She's got a 2-bedroom house, or apartment, excuse me, paying $1,800. Well, she could get a roommate, maybe split that, or downsize into a 1-bedroom, which is only $1,200 a month. Right away, with one simple adjustment, she's saving $600 per month. Now, it might not be optimal, but that's $600 a month. So just with that one adjustment, Maxine is almost to positive. She's still got $190 to go. All right, next step can be transportation. Well, before she has this nice little convertible, right? She's got a nice little sports car because it's cool. She lives in California. Everybody wants to have a sports car. But you know what? That's a $390 a month payment for that thing. That's a lot of money, plus the gas and maintenance. Well, what if she went to a new electric vehicle? So she drops from, what was it, from $390, she drops to $300. Now, I know that's not the most attractive car, but it's an electric vehicle. So now her gas is going to drop. Her insurance is probably going to drop as well. So a lot of this is going to save her even more money. That now saves her $90 just in the car payment, and I'll show you how that impacts on the gas bill here in just a second. So now we're getting even better. We've saved ourselves a total of $690 per month. What about food? Well, she ate out a lot. What if we can convince her to start cooking at home a little bit more, doing some meal prep? We can already see that auto and gas maintenance, which was $150 a month, that disappears because it's electric. And if she's smart, she's going to charge it up at the office or her friend's house or places where she's not paying for the electricity to charge it. So we cut back a little bit on food. General merchandise dropped a little bit as well. We've now saved $500 right there. So just with these three things, Maxine is now going to be positive. You'll see here shortly. Okay. The insurance side of things. So remember, she went from the convertible to an electric vehicle, goes from $148 to $136. I actually did look up these numbers. I pulled up the numbers for a BMW 3 Series versus a Nissan Leaf, and that's the exact insurance cost that it would be. She only saves $12, but I'm telling you, $12 is a lot when you're looking at 20 or 30 years of saving that every single month. So let's look at the last one, utilities. This is a change that I personally made myself 4 years ago, and I'll tell you what, I haven't looked back. If you look at her expenses, look, electric, she might be able to use less electricity, but let's just keep everything she does the same. Gas is the same. The big change here, which I recommend you all do, is get rid of your cable. She's spending $120 a month for her cable bill. Well, what if we just eliminate that? And you're thinking, but she won't be able to watch The Bachelor. She won't be able to watch Super Bowl. You can do it all streaming through your internet connection. And notice her internet connection has not changed. By the way, one little asterisk here. I would encourage all of you, if you've had the same internet package for the past year or 2 years, call your internet provider, because I bet you right now there's a package that's faster and cheaper than the one that you're in, and renegotiate, and now all of a sudden you spend less money and get faster internet. That was the case for me as well, so these are little things you can do to save $5 a month, $10 a month. It all starts to add up. So how does Maxine's situation look now? It's changed completely. Remember, I believe we were negative $790 a month. Well, now, all of a sudden, we start to look at some different numbers, right? There's a little sliver of green over there. 14.6% of her monthly income is now available for savings. That means she's got $530 per month. This is big news for her. All of a sudden, her picture changes, okay? Notice Maxine now has a smile on her face because she has disposable income. Step one, get disposable income. Now, she has $530 now. The question becomes, what do you do with that? There's no question about it. You don't go to Vegas. You don't go on a trip. You don't do anything. You go and you pay down this debt. And of course, if I was to ask you guys which one should you pay first, a lot of people would say, you're going to pay down credit card number 2 because it's only $2,000. I'll get rid of that one first. Absolutely not. You're paying down that 24% credit card. That is usurious fee out there. Get rid of that one first. So let's break this down. How could she pay down that debt? If we look at the three major debt obligations she has, the 2 credit cards and a student loan, that was $614 per month. Now, if we pay the minimum balance, just the minimum that those credit cards and student loan were offering us, that would take us 15 years and 9 months. She would be a 50-year-old woman by the time she paid off her credit card debt. That's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. This is a flaw in the system, but we won't get into credit card reform today. If you do roll-off, which is basically you're paying down with all the minimums, and as soon as you pay off one, you take that payment and you roll it into the next card, it would take 2 years and 9 months. All of a sudden, things change a little bit. But what if she took, here you go. If you did the 15-year 9 months, you're looking at $6,000 worth of interest. If you do the snowball debt interest, or called roll-down payoff, it would be $2,903. That's saving you $3,200. That's nice. Now, if we added $100, we would pay it off in 2 years and 3 months. But let's say she took that whole $530. This is called living tough for a while, right? She's really watching every penny. She takes that full $530 that she saved, and she now drops it all into paying off her debt. What's amazing about this is here's a situation where if you stuck to what the credit cards give you, she's looking at paying it off in almost 16 years, 15 years and 9 months. But if she pays $530 extra a month, which she now has as disposable income, she pays it off in 1 year and 4 months. That is huge. So what happens now? Look at this picture. This is what we're aspiring to be. Notice she's now 36 years old. She might even be a senior web developer at this point. But the thing I want you to notice is 100% debt-free in 1 year and 4 months. Many of you have a lot of debt right now. And is it good debt or is it bad debt? If it's anything over a 7% rate, you better pay that down. The thing that's changed, she's in a 1-bedroom apartment. That's fine. But now she's 100% debt-free. Remember, she had $530 a month, but now think of it. She had all that credit card debt. It was $614 a month she was paying to service her credit card debt. If we add that to her disposable income now, she now has $1,144 per month to save. So now the question is, what do we do with this one? Yeah, right. There was one. We have to make sure interest isn't going up. Yes, some of those might be variable, but I think you guys get the point. You need to pay it off. So now what do we do? She's got $1,144 per month. Okay, and I'm not even taking into consideration here that she may have gotten a pay raise over the last year, which will probably happen. But what if she just kept this $1,144 per month and started to invest it, right? Next step is, what do you do with it? Well, it's understanding wealth creation. Wealth creation really breaks down into 4 key components: investments and rate of return, market timing, compounding interest and time, and expenses and fees. For now, let's start with investments and rate of return. So historically, and I just want to give you guys an idea of what the average returns. We're not sensationalizing here, not making any bogus claims. Oh, you're going to make 100% a month. No, that's absolutely not going to happen. What might happen is you might meet the rate of return of the market. So for example, if you go from I think it's 1927 to 1956 or 7, the average rate of return for the S&P 500 was 10%. Okay? If you go from 1957 through till today, it's 8%. So when someone says they're going to guarantee you anything above 8%, you have to raise an eyebrow and go, how are you getting that? Because the average market return is 8%. So we're going to use some of these numbers as our benchmark. Now, let's talk about diversification. This is another one that your financial advisors will tell you you need to diversify, but most people are diversified incorrectly. So take a look at your own holdings. If you don't know what you hold, you can go type down all the symbol lists of your mutual funds and stocks and analyze it. Look at what you're holding. If you can't do it there, you can always send it in at Power Trading Radio. We love talking about and looking at that stuff. So let's break this portfolio down. You've got large stocks at 35%. You have small stocks at 35%, mid-cap stocks at 20%, and 10% real estate. This is so undiversified, it's sickening. Basically, 90% of your portfolio is in the stock market. How is that diversified? Well, but there's small, large cap, and mid cap. That's not diversification. You need to move around to assets which are not correlated. For example, here we have large cap stocks at 15%. Bonds, which are generally inverse related, 15%. You've got gold, 15%. Small cap stocks at 20%. So only 35% of this portfolio on the right-hand side is equities. You've got some Forex in there, some currencies. Yeah, there should be some real estate in here, but it's not. There should be some real estate in this one. We have commodities on here as well. to be totally honest with you, I want to make sure you guys don't jump out and build a portfolio like this one on the right. This is a very risky portfolio. That exposure to 25% commodities as well as 15% gold is a kind of dangerous proposition. The point is, be in investments that are inverse of each other to help offset markets. Now, the key here is understanding the impacts of rates of return. Rate of return becomes critical here. If you look at that $1,400 or $1,144 that Maxine had to save each month, what if she just for the next 30 years just took that $1,144 and put it into a market account and bought the S&P 500, okay? Well, if she underperformed the market, that contribution of that $1,144 per month would be $1,154,000 at the end of 30 years. Okay, I wouldn't say that that's rich, but that's a nice gain, right? That's investing that money. What if she got that 10%? Well, she did $2,600,000. Its opponent of that wealth creation matrix is looking at market timing. Any one of you who's an Online Trading Academy graduate understands the market timing concepts, but I want to refresh that because I know I've got a lot of newbies out here who have not been a part of us. Uh-oh. We have audio? We dropped audio. Sound is back? Okay, I don't know what happened there. Thank you, Teresa. Sorry, guys, I don't know what happened with the audio, but well, we didn't do anything different over here. We're just making sure you guys are paying attention. That was our little tester out there. Sorry about that. So market timing becomes your other one. I know many of you are Online Trading Academy graduates, so you understand this, but many of you are not. So let's talk about, oh, you know what? It was actually an internet thing over here. I can see the disconnection coming in, so it was probably on me. Past 2 minutes. Okay, I will start. Yeah, it was something. I think it was this computer that I'm working on. There you go. So from the market timing perspective, let's go and show you why it's important to do market timing and not just blindly put you at that $1,144 in the market that Maxine has to invest or whatever amount you have to invest. Don't blindly put that in the markets. Why? Here's an example. 1921 to 1933 for the U.S. markets. It was an amazing time, right? You have a long period of time of gains and significant sell-offs. The point I'm trying to show you here is if you look at this horizontal line, from 1921, if you invested all your money in 1921, you'd have had some massive gains, but all of a sudden, you go all the way to 1933, you would have lost money. That's a 12-year span of time where you would have literally lost money. Don't let that happen. Market timing is critical. This market at one point was up 432%, and then it dropped 87%. This is things that Online Trading Academy graduates are focusing on, saying, look, I want to be part of that upswing. I also want to make money on that downswing. So while the average retail investor in this equation lost money over a decade, we could have done very well and overperformed the market. There's also a period from 1948 to 1986, right? That's a long period of time where the markets just went sideways. Well, 63 to 83 went sideways, but the chart here is from 1948. That means that for the most part, these people didn't really make any money. Of course, there's opportunity in here for those who are timing the markets, right? Making sure you have this up and down swings, selling at supply, buying down at demand. Market timing is critical. Now, if we look at a hypothetical portfolio situation going back from 2000 to 2013, this is why it's so important. We did a hypothetical analysis that said in 2000, if you started with a $1 million account, what would it look like? And this, of course, is something that many baby boomers were suffering through because they were getting near retirement, and all of a sudden, their money disappeared. It took 13 years to come back to break even. Let me repeat that again. 13 years to come back to break even. That means that was 13 years of wasted opportunity of your capital for people who are just buy and hold investors. There was a 57, well, I'll go through the numbers here, but there was a significant drawdown in that market, followed by some major market rallies, right? You were up 250%, followed by a 50% decline. 105% rally, 57% decline. And right now, we are in the midst of a 342% rally. I think you can all look at this picture and say that at some point here, statistics, probability will tell us we're going to have a big red drop. I don't know how far it's going to go. What that means to us is we want to make sure we time these markets. Don't be loading the boat right now, buying off of hope of some trade tariff talk. Careful. I would probably say it's best to be more of a cash-based investor right now, and when things drop down significantly, then buy back in and smooth out that cost of time average here for your capital. All right, next Twitter poll, a good one. What do you think will help grow your capital more quickly? Compounding interest, investment selection, or just good luck? Without a doubt, compounding interest. Compounding interest is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. You got Mr. Einstein saying, compound interest is the greatest mathematical discovery of all time. It's the most powerful force in the universe. Compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. We need to learn from this man. So here's an example of compounding interest, just to give you an idea. If you took $10,000 lump sum, one-time transaction, and threw it into a bank account that was going to give you 8%. Watch how this one changes. It took us 30 years to get that $10,000 up to $100,000. To gain $90,000 worth of interest would have taken 30 years. But all of a sudden, it took us only 5 years to go up the next $100,000. 4 years to go up the next $100,000. 3 years to go up the next $100,000. 2.5 to go up the next $100,000. 2, 1.5. So you can see it's speeding up. And the faster that, or the longer the time goes, the steeper that slope of compounding interest, to the point we might get to an angle here where all of a sudden it's taking us a month to make $100,000. Of course, that'd probably be a 150-year timeline, but you get the point. The longer we do this, the better it's going to be for your accounts. So if we look at time, I want to show some important pieces here. We had Kayla Christine on the program on Power Trading Radio a couple weeks ago, or actually last week, and she is a millennial who started in her 20s. Critical, because some of you might be starting in your 60s. Why is it important? If we put in $100 every month with an 8% rate of return until you're 65, if you started at 60, you only have $7,000 invested. You got nothing. If you started at 50, you have 35 grand. 40, now you're at 96. If you started at 30, this number starts to get nice, right? 232,000. Then, if you look at 20, it's $530,000 in the account. What it's showing you here is the power of time and compounding. The amount of interest earned is exponentially higher for whoever starts earlier. That 20-year-old earned $476,000 just in interest, whereas that individual who started at 60 just made $1,500. So time is everything. Start early. Get going. If you got kids, get them in there. The last piece isn't one that grows your account. It's kind of funny. It doesn't grow it. It takes away from it. And by minimizing these numbers, we can actually grow our account. So I'm going to do one quick example, and that's simply looking at a mutual fund. Here's just a random fund I picked up. Of course, I found one that had some fees to it, but it's a small cap fund. 5% expense ratio. You got to be kidding me. A deferred load of 1% for a total of 6% in fees. And this fund only has 26 holdings, so it's not even that diversified. But for those of you who are traders, you don't have to buy this fund. You could buy the IWM, which is the Russell 2000 ETF. It's 2,000 plus holdings of small cap stocks, and it has a fee of 0.2%. That's crazy. Now, that may not seem like much, right? Look at the numbers and how they stack up. This is only 10 years. If we took that money, $10,000, and put it in these funds respectively, and at the end of 10 years, what would the balance have grown to? Well, if you had 5% fees, your $10,000 would have turned to $13,439. That's not bad, right? You made $3 grand. If we had a 2% fee, it grows to $17,900. But what if we got IWM in that situation and paid 0.2%? That's $21,193. That is a savings of $7,000 plus, $7,700 extra that we would put in your pocket simply because the fee of the investment vehicle. So start mapping out. If you have a 401k, if you have an IRA out there, map it out and find out what you're in and understand it, because you could be paying a lot of money in fees, especially those of you who are on 401ks. Now, in a perfect world, when you go and sit with your financial advisor, they're going to say, well, Mr. Rothfeld, we want your equity curve to look like this. It's going to be a straight parabolic line and you're going to be rich over time. Not true. Reality is you're going to have market fluctuations. You're going to have some periods of up, some periods of down, some sideways. But ultimately, you want your account to be going up over time. This one is okay. This one, it's not great. You know, you're looking at an investment horizon of 45 years here, and your account went from 0 to just under $3 million. That's not great. What we don't want to have happen is this. We don't want to have your account all of a sudden right near the end decline. And unfortunately, this is what's happened to a lot of baby boomers. They're lucky the past 10 years have happened. But I'm worried that this could happen to Gen Xers or any generation, where as they get near retirement, all of a sudden things come crashing down and you're left with nothing at the end. So your ideal is going to be have something that slopes up, and understand you're going to have some minor pullbacks along the way. There will be some bumps in the road. So that fourth step here, is really building a plan. And I know we've machine gunned a ton of information at you. Some of you who this might be new to could be overwhelming. Look, watch it again. I talked really fast today because if I didn't, this is probably a 2-hour presentation. But really, step number 1 is looking at your personal finances, understanding what you're doing, making smart decisions. Then it gets down to that market timing, understanding what to put your investments into, compounding interest, rates of return. Now we've got building a plan, right? What is your plan? Your plan should include several things. Number 1 is set realistic expectations. If your expectation is that you're going to be making 30% a year, every year, that's unrealistic. Why do I say it's unrealistic? Because the average market return right now for the past, since 1957, I believe, on the S&P 500 is 8%. So your goal should be to beat the S&P 500, right? That should be all of our goals. If not, match it. If you can't match it, then just buy it. Buy SPY. Many traders out there, if you went back and evaluated your returns, it's probably going to be less than 8% or less than the S&P. Well, if that's the case, then just buy the S&P. So let's set realistic expectations. Now, is building and working to get up to a 12, 14, 18, 20% rate of return unrealistic? No. It can be done, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to know market timing. You have to know asset selection. You have to know the right way to execute and really when to buy these things and set up strategies in place and be consistent about it. Money management and have a risk management in place. Second piece here is build milestones. Right? I always love seeing little pictures of kids drawing pictures of themselves saying, hey, when I'm older, I'm going to be an NFL football player. And they're like 3. Well, it's not to say that that's an unrealistic expectation. It's pretty far-fetched. But in getting there, fine. If you're a parent and your kid draws a picture of themselves saying they want to be a Major League Baseball player and they're 3 years old, great. Well, work with them. What do they have to do? Well, they got to go to batting practice almost every single day. They're going to be in Little League. They're going to be in the minor leagues. They're going to have to work their way up. And it's always about getting better, getting mentors, getting coaches, and getting into the process of being a Major League Baseball player. Immersing yourselves in that environment. Same thing goes for trading and investing, right? You need to have a mentor. You need to have a path mapped out. You need to know all the steps you're going to be encountering, and you have to always be doing it. It's not like you're going to just throw a dart and all of a sudden be, hey, I got lucky, I made a ton of money. It's not going to happen. So build milestones. Set little markers for yourself saying, okay, by the end of this year, I hope to grow my account 10%, right? Give it that goal. If you achieve it, analyze it. What could you improve to maybe make it 12% next year or 15 or 18 or 20, right? Don't set milestones like 100% rates of return. Those are pretty unrealistic. And then map your progress. Did you achieve that goal? If you didn't, what could you have done differently to potentially achieve that goal? It's all about having a journal, tracking things, and understanding what you're doing with your capital and with your wealth. So you've got a whole bunch of different pieces here. Again, we started off with learning to make smart decisions, right? Be good with your money. Don't buy things you don't need. You want to go buy yourself a Cadillac Escalade for $120,000, or can you go buy yourself a Toyota Camry for $25,000? Probably go with the Toyota Camry. Right? Or buy something used and maybe get it for $10,000. That's a smart decision. Instead of throwing away an extra $100,000, you could put that towards growing your wealth. Analyze your personal finances. Every one of you, please do this. Please analyze your finances. I am trying to do this with all of my friends personally and sit down with them and say, let's map out your finances. Where do you stand? Because it's the first step, really, in understanding how you can start to save, what money you have to save. From there, we go to understanding wealth creation. And we looked at 4 components, right? We looked at compounding interest. We looked at market timing. We looked at time, right? Over time. We looked at, I forgot what the first one was, but we're good. And then finally, last one was the fees, et cetera, that are associated with it. Now, that is really the path that leads you to your wealth creation. It is a process. It's not a get-rich-quick thing. It is a process where it will take time for you to achieve these goals. It will take time for you to achieve those milestone markers. But if you have it mapped out, you can realistically anticipate getting to an end goal. And to me, that's a critical one. There are simple things you can do. For example, I think it was Northwestern Mutual or Go Banking said that average employees are missing out on $1,336 in matching each year from their employer in retirement. That's throwing away $1,336 every year. Why not max that out? So now all of a sudden you're getting that. There are little tiny things we can do to get money. It's that old analogy of if there's the penny sitting on the ground, it's not worth your time to pick it up. Well, that might be true. But in many cases, you're talking about it's not pennies, it's quarters, it's dollars, it's $100 bills sitting there. Stop and pick it up add it to your portfolio, pay down your debt so you don't have anything draining you, and now we can start to build our wealth. So in a nutshell, guys, that was our map to wealth creation, your guide to wealth creation. It is a process. Again, I'm hoping that a lot of you got some good information out of this. You can absolutely watch this from beginning to end. We'll repost the video here shortly. If you'd like to know more information, you can go to otawebinar.com, find out more information about market timing, about Online Trading Academy's core strategy, and see how you might be able to implement that into your wealth creation process. But bottom line is, it's up to you. No one's going to force you to do this. And I think all of us, and if anyone in here thinks that they have no ambitions of being wealthy or having money in their account, then I think something's wrong with you. We all want to have wealth to some extent. Some might want to have just enough to be happy with. Some might want to have a good amount so they can contribute to their church or social programs or donating. And then you have greedy people like me who just want to be rich so have a lot of money and don't have to worry about our government or Social Security or anything like that. It runs the full spectrum. We all want to have some component of wealth. So start today, be proactive. Hopefully this video helped you out there. Again, if you'd like to know more, go to otawebinar.com for more information. And again, post those questions down below. What I'll do is I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes real quick here to go through some of these listener questions here. I know we had a bunch. And thank you guys for all the positive feedback. I see a lot of great stuff coming through. Let me see real quick if I can read some of these. I know there's a ton of them coming through. Where's questions? If you're seeking it, thanks, Tracy. Appreciate that one. I disagree. Talking fast about nothing of interest, this absolutely is of interest for many, many people out there. So to me, this is a great thing to be doing. Well, you know, don't want to waste your time going through me trying to find questions to read because there's a ton of stuff going in here, but all right, I will wrap it up with that. I'll leave it there. Again, if you guys have questions that you want to know more about any of the concepts we talked about today, maybe something we could dive deeper into, go down underneath the video, type it in the chat, or not in the chat, in the comment area, things you would like us to address. If you like this video, you like what was presented, feel free to give us a check mark out there or a thumbs up. We always appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.